All right, so you guys requested a deep dive on emotional control,
Oh, yeah.
and you sent over this audiobook called The Power of Not Reacting.
Mhm.
And just the title, I mean, wouldn't it be amazing just like
Right.
not be at the mercy of like anger or sadness or
Totally.
anxiety,
Right.
just to have that unshakable composure?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
really a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this audiobook, it doesn't just like dangle the idea,
Right.
you know? It actually gives you like a framework,
Yeah.
techniques to like
Yeah.
really achieve that
So what's like the
level of control.
what's the first step then in this emotional mastery journey?
Well, it all starts with understanding your emotional triggers,
Okay.
according to the audiobook at least.
The emotional triggers?
Yeah, these like seemingly harmless things.
Oh, like that set you off.
Yeah, that can just set off this like
Yeah.
unexpected emotional chain
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah, it's like there are these hidden buttons.
Totally.
And then
Right.
suddenly you're
And you're like flooded with all these feelings.
like, why am I feeling this way right now? This
Yeah, and they don't even match the situation.
doesn't even match.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because a lot of times these triggers,
Okay.
they're really rooted in past experiences.
Oh.
You know, like the audiobook gives this great example.
Okay.
Imagine like a coworker says something
Mm-hmm.
pretty ordinary comment, right?
Right.
But for some reason, it evokes this really strong sense of insecurity in you.
Yeah.
And you start thinking, why? Why am I feeling this way?
Right.
Well, maybe it's because it echoes a criticism that you used to hear all the time
Oh.
from a bully when you were a kid.
Oh, wow.
So logically,
Yeah.
the situations are totally different.
Completely different.
But emotionally, your brain is like connecting the two.
So it's almost like our past experiences are creating these.
It's like an emotional shortcut,
Yeah.
like a pre-programmed response.
Yeah. Does that mean we're doomed to repeat
So are we just doomed?
these patterns forever?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And that's where the power of awareness comes in.
Okay.
The audiobook argues that just recognizing those triggers,
Okay.
like knowing what sets you off,
Mhm.
that's a huge step towards taking control.
Okay.
It's like if you're aware of a landmine,
Okay.
you're less likely to step on it.
Okay. Yeah, but how do you even identify these
Okay.
triggers in the first place?
That's a great question.
Because they seem so subtle.
Yeah.
They kind of catch us off guard.
Well, the audiobook says this takes practice.
Okay.
It suggests paying attention to your physical reactions
Oh.
in addition to like the emotional responses.
Oh, okay.
So think about it. When you get anxious, what happens?
My heart races.
Okay, your heart races.
I get that like tight feeling in my chest.
There you go. Those are physiological cues
Mm-hmm.
that something is triggering an emotional response.
So it's like our body is sending us a signal,
Yeah.
almost like a warning light.
A warning light.
Pay attention.
There's a trigger here.
Totally.
And once you learn to tune in to those sensations,
Okay.
you become more aware of your emotional state.
In real time.
Yes.
Okay.
In real time.
So then that gives us the opportunity to do something about it.
Exactly.
I'm guessing that's where the pause button comes in?
Yes.
That's what I was really curious about.
But the pause button is a central theme
Oh.
in this audiobook.
Okay.
It's all about creating that like split-second gap
Okay.
between the trigger and your reaction.
Okay.
So instead of immediately lashing out or like spiraling into anxiety,
Right.
you consciously insert a moment of pause.
Okay, but in the heat of the moment,
Right.
when emotions are high, how do you actually hit that pause button
Of course.
when you're ready to explode?
It takes practice.
Okay.
But the audiobook offers some tools.
Okay.
Like, have you heard of the 4-7-8 breathing method?
I have.
You know that one?
Yeah.
Where you'd inhale for 4, hold for 7.
Yeah, and exhale for 8.
Exactly.
It sounds so simple,
It's-
but I've heard it's really effective.
It is. There's a physiological reason for that.
Okay.
When you're consciously controlling your breath,
Mm-hmm.
you're activating the parasympathetic nervous system,
Okay.
which basically calms your body down.
Okay.
It counteracts the stress response.
So it's like hitting the brakes
Yes.
on that like fight or flight.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like hitting the brakes.
I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Good.
Yeah.
So that pause that you create,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through breathing
Yeah.
or other mindfulness techniques,
Yeah.
it's crucial for making conscious choices about how we want to respond
Instead of just react.
instead of just reacting
Yes.
on impulse.
But isn't mindfulness like all about meditation?
What?
How do we incorporate that into like daily life?
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
The audiobook makes a great point
Okay.
that mindfulness isn't limited to formal meditation.
Oh.
It can be woven into everyday activities. So for example, let's say you're having a conversation
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just going through the motion,
Right.
like really focus on what the other person is saying.
Okay.
Be present in that moment.
Right.
Or when you're eating, savor each bite.
Hmm.
Notice the textures and flavors.
Instead of just like shoveling it in.
Yes, instead of mindlessly eating.
Yeah.
So it's about bringing this heightened sense of awareness
Okay.
to even those mundane things.
But how does that tie back to emotional control?
Well, it's all about disrupting those automatic reactions
Okay.
by being present in the moment.
Hmm.
We're less likely to get hijacked by our emotions.
Okay.
We can observe them,
Yeah.
acknowledge them, and choose a more thoughtful response.
Okay, so what about when you're already feeling overwhelmed by negativity?
Okay.
Like you're stuck in traffic,
Yeah.
you're late for a meeting,
Happens all the time.
and that frustration just starts building.
Sure.
How do you regain control when negativity has already taken hold?
The audiobook addresses this with something called reframing
Okay.
negative thoughts.
So reframing negative thought.
Yeah, it's about consciously choosing to interpret a situation in a more positive or neutral light.
Oh, like they use that example of being stuck in traffic.
Right, yeah.
Like instead of fuming about being late,
Right.
you reframe it as an opportunity to relax and listen to a podcast.
Exactly. Or catch up on phone calls.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that simple shift
Yeah.
can completely change.
Your whole experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
The situation hasn't changed.
Right.
You're still stuck in traffic.
Right. But how you feel about it is different.
But your reaction to it
yes.
is totally different.
So it's not about denying reality.
Right.
It's about choosing how we want to
Choosing how we want to feel about it.
frame it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And you can apply this to so many things.
Yeah.
Like work deadlines,
Family arguments.
family arguments, anything that stresses you out.
It's about taking back control of the narrative. I'm starting to see how these like seemingly small shifts
I know, it's amazing.
in perspective
Yeah,
can have such a big impact
totally.
on our overall emotional well-being.
I know.
Okay, so
And the audiobook doesn't stop there.
okay.
It goes on to emphasize empathy and compassion,
Okay.
not just for ourselves, but for others as well.
How does empathy fit into this?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Emotional control isn't just about managing our own reactions.
Okay.
It's also about understanding and responding to other people's emotions.
Right.
And empathy is at the heart of that.
It's like tuning into someone else's frequency,
Yes.
trying to understand their perspective,
Exactly.
even if you don't necessarily agree with them.
Yeah. The audiobook gives the example of active listening.
Okay.
When somebody is sharing their feelings with you,
Mm-hmm.
instead of jumping in with solutions
Okay.
or trying to fix the problem,
Right.
you just listen
Yeah.
with attentiveness.
And validate their experience. Yeah, I can see how that would create a sense of understanding.
Right.
But how is compassion different from empathy?
So empathy is about stepping into someone else's shoes.
Okay.
Compassion is about taking action to alleviate their suffering.
Okay.
So you're moving beyond just understanding.
They're actually wanting to help.
It's actually wanting to help,
Yeah.
make them feel better.
So it's not just passive observation.
It's active. It's actively engaging.
Engaging with their emotions in a supportive way.
Yeah, this is all starting to sound like emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
But does all this focus on understanding and managing emotions
Does it let us off the hook?
let us off the hook for our own reactions?
That's an interesting question.
I mean, is there a danger of becoming too understanding
Right.
and not holding ourselves accountable?
Well, the audiobook doesn't shy away from that.
Okay.
It strongly emphasizes taking responsibility
Okay.
for your own reactions,
So-
no matter what.
So we can't just blame other people for our outbursts.
Exactly.
It emphasizes that we always have a choice
In how we respond.
in how we respond even when we're triggered.
Okay.
It's recognizing that he made me so angry
Yeah.
is very different from I felt angry when he said that.
That's a subtle shift in language, but it's powerful.
It is.
Because when we own our reactions, we empower ourselves
Exactly.
to choose a different response next time.
Yes. You're taking control.
It's like taking back the steering wheel
Yes.
instead of letting our emotions drive us off a cliff.
I love that analogy.
Okay.
The audiobook goes on to explore how ego and pride
Oh, yeah.
can get in the way.
I can relate to that.
I think we've all been there,
Oh, yeah.
digging in our heels during an argument,
Yes.
refusing to back down even when we're wrong.
All because our pride is wounded.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you had any experiences like that
Oh, yeah, actually.
where pride got in the way?
This is a little embarrassing.
Oh, I'm sure we can all relate.
But there was this one time I was having a disagreement with my partner, and It wasn't even about anything important,
It rarely is.
but I was convinced I was right.
And your pride wouldn't let you back down?
No,
Well,
and my pride just wouldn't let me back down.
yeah,
And so
that happened.
things escalated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
I was so focused on proving my point and like winning the argument
Right.
that I completely shut down any possibility of compromise.
That'll do it.
And it just blew up into this huge fight.
And how long did it take to recover?
It took us days to recover.
Oh, wow.
Looking back, it was a classic example of how pride can backfire.
And that's exactly what the audiobook warns about.
Yeah.
Letting go of ego and pride
Yeah.
is essential.
But isn't there a difference between like healthy self-confidence
Sure.
and destructive pride?
Of course.
Where do we draw the line?
That's a great point, and the audiobook acknowledges that.
Okay.
It's about finding that balance.
Okay.
It's not about becoming a doormat
Right.
or losing your sense of self.
Right.
But it's about recognizing when our ego is driving our actions.
And preventing us from being receptive.
Preventing us from being receptive
Yeah.
and empathetic.
So sometimes being right
Right.
isn't as important as finding a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from a mindset of competition
Okay.
to a mindset of collaboration,
Okay.
which ultimately leads to better emotional control and healthier relationships.
And speaking of feeling good, the audiobook also talks about gratitude.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Daily gratitude.
Have you ever tried a gratitude journal?
I have.
Do you think they're really effective?
I do.
Okay.
The audiobook makes a strong case for it.
Okay.
Such a simple practice.
Yeah.
You just take a few minutes each day
Yeah.
to write down things you're grateful for,
Yeah.
but the impact can be profound.
I can see how that would help with emotional regulation.
Right?
Like when you're focused on the good, it's harder to get bogged down by the negative.
Exactly.
But isn't gratitude a bit of a luxury? Oh, that's a good question.
When you're dealing with like really challenging situations,
Yeah.
like past trauma,
You're bringing up a sensitive topic.
yeah.
But the audiobook does address past trauma.
Okay.
And while it doesn't claim to be like a comprehensive guide to healing,
Right.
it does offer some helpful tools.
Like what are some of the suggestions?
Well, it encourages using those reframing techniques that we talked about to challenge those negative thought patterns
Okay.
associated with the trauma.
Okay.
It also emphasizes the importance of developing emotional regulation skills.
Like the 4-7-8 breathing.
Yes, exactly.
What if those techniques aren't enough?
That's when professional help is crucial.
Okay.
Therapy, support groups.
Support group.
These resources can provide invaluable support and guidance.
It's important to remember that healing from trauma is a process.
It is.
It looks different for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's not about erasing the past.
Right. But about learning to live with it in a way that allows us to move forward.
I think that's a good place to pause.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground already.
Right.
From identifying emotional triggers
Yes.
to reframing
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of self-responsibility.
I've been enjoying this
too.
exploration.
Yeah, let's take a break and come back for part 2,
Sounds good.
where we'll continue to unpack
Yes.
the wisdom of the power of not reacting.
Can't wait. As we kind of dig deeper into this whole not reacting thing,
Yeah.
it's like we're talking about building emotional resilience.
Okay.
You know, that ability to bounce back from adversity
Yeah.
and stay balanced.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It's like we're constructing this inner fortress
Exactly.
to protect ourselves from the storms of
Yeah.
life.
So where do we even begin?
Yeah. Why do we even begin with this?
Well, it's not about suppressing emotions
Okay.
or becoming like stoic.
Okay.
The audiobook actually says it's the opposite.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging and processing those emotions, but then consciously choosing how we want to respond.
So it's not about like stopping the waves from crashing. It's about learning to surf.
It's like surfing.
Yeah.
And just like surfing,
Yeah.
emotional resilience. Life, you know, it throws curveballs.
Oh, yeah.
Things don't always go according to plan.
Tell me about it.
And that can be really frustrating.
Yeah, especially for people who like to be in control.
Especially for those of us who like to be in control.
Yeah, I'm someone who thrives on routine
Okay.
and predictability.
Okay.
So when things go off the rails, I get thrown off balance.
So what does the audiobook say about dealing with those curveballs?
Yeah.
Well, it emphasizes adaptability.
Okay.
You know, a resilient person doesn't get derailed by every setback.
Right.
They're able to adjust, come up with a plan B or C.
So it's about having that mental agility to like shift gears
Exactly.
when the original plan falls apart.
Yeah. It's about being able to pivot
Yeah.
and find new solutions.
But is there also like a mindset element to this?
Oh, absolutely.
Do we need to be like relentlessly optimistic to be resilient?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's not about being blindly optimistic
Right.
or denying reality,
Right.
but it's about maintaining a sense of hope,
Okay.
that belief that things will work out,
Yeah.
even if you don't know how yet.
So it's like having that inner compass
Exactly.
that guides you.
It's about having faith in yourself
Yeah.
and your ability to navigate the challenges.
What about when we're struggling to let go of past hurts or mistakes?
Forgiveness.
Yeah, can we truly be resilient if we're carrying around all that resentment and guilt?
That is a crucial aspect of resilience.
Yeah.
And it's not just about forgiving others,
Mm-hmm.
but forgiving ourselves.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
It is.
Yeah.
The audiobook says that holding on to grudges,
Yeah.
whether it's against ourselves or others,
Hmm.
it's incredibly draining.
It's like carrying around this heavy backpack.
It's like a heavy backpack
Full of rocks.
full of rocks.
Yeah.
Weighs us down.
Prevents us from moving forward.
Yes.
But how do we start unpacking those rocks?
How do we let go?
Yeah, how do we let go of those grudges?
The first step is acknowledging the hurt.
Okay.
It's okay to feel angry,
Yeah.
betrayed, disappointed.
Right.
All those emotions are valid.
Yeah.
But then we have to make a conscious decision
Okay.
to release those feelings.
Not because the other person deserves it.
Not because they deserve it,
Yeah.
but because we deserve peace.
So it's not about condoning what they did.
Right.
It's about freeing ourselves from that burden.
Exactly.
Okay.
Forgiveness is an act of self-compassion.
And that brings us to setting boundaries.
Oh, yes, boundaries.
Which I've been working on.
It's not easy,
Not easy at all.
but it's about learning to say no to things that drain our energy
Right. Or make us feel uncomfortable.
or make us feel uncomfortable. Yes. And remember, boundaries aren't selfish.
Okay.
They're a form of self-care.
Okay.
They help us protect our time,
Yeah.
our energy,
Our emotional well-being.
our emotional well-being. Yes.
It's like creating a safe space
Exactly.
where we feel respected and valued.
But it can be hard to set those boundaries,
It is hard.
especially if you're a people pleaser
Oh, yeah.
or you prioritize other people's needs above your own.
Yeah, all the time.
The audiobook reminds us that setting boundaries
Yeah.
is a sign of self-respect.
Okay.
It's about honoring your own needs,
Yeah.
which allows you to show up more fully
For the people you care about.
for the people you care about.
Okay.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
We feel guilty about prioritizing our own needs.
I know it's hope,
Yeah.
but we have to take care of ourselves first.
What about the external stressors
Oh, yeah.
that we can't just set boundaries around?
Like what?
Like work deadlines, family obligations, the news.
Right, all the information overload.
All that stuff can really take a toll
It does.
on your emotional well-being.
It does.
Yeah.
The audiobook offers some tools
Okay.
for managing stress and anxiety,
Like mindfulness.
like mindfulness. Yes.
But how can you be mindful when you're juggling a million things
That's a good question.
and feeling completely frazzled?
It's not about finding an hour to meditate,
Okay.
although that is helpful,
Yeah.
but it's about bringing awareness
Okay.
to whatever you're doing,
Even if it's just for a few moments?
even if it's just for a few moments.
Okay.
It's about noticing your breath,
Hmm.
your body, your thoughts
Without judgment.
without judgment.
So it's about finding those little pockets of mindfulness
Yeah.
throughout the day,
Exactly.
even when things are chaotic.
Even when things are chaotic.
I think it's important to acknowledge that sometimes
Sometimes we need more.
we need more than just mindfulness.
What does the audiobook say about professional help?
Yeah.
It encourages it.
Okay.
Therapy counseling can be invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shame in seeking professional guidance.
Yeah.
Just like you wouldn't hesitate to see a doctor
Right.
for a physical health issue.
You shouldn't hesitate to reach out for mental health support.
Exactly.
We often try to tough it out on our own.
I know.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need that extra support
Yeah.
to weather the storm,
Okay.
so to speak.
I'm curious about the audiobook's perspective on patience and tolerance,
Oh, yeah.
especially in our fast-paced.
Instant gratification world.
Yeah, those qualities seem to be in short supply these days.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, the audiobook says that patience and tolerance
Okay.
are muscles
Okay.
that need to be exercised.
Okay.
And one of the best ways to do that
Is mindfulness.
is mindfulness.
Mindfulness keeps coming back.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, how does mindfulness cultivate patience and tolerance?
When you're fully present,
Mm-hmm.
you're less likely to get caught up in those feelings of frustration and impatience.
When things don't happen on our timeline.
When things don't happen on our timeline.
Yeah.
So it's about accepting that sometimes the waiting
Yeah.
is part of the process.
We also need to be patient with ourselves.
Yes.
That's where self-compassion comes in.
Yes, self-compassion.
The audiobook has a section on that, right?
It does.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness
Yes.
and understanding that we would offer a close friend.
Exactly.
So it's not about being self-indulgent.
No.
It's about offering ourselves support.
It's about being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Giving yourself a break.
And this self-compassion is especially important.
Especially important when we're dealing with past trauma.
It's recognizing that healing takes time.
Yes.
And it's okay to not be okay.
The audiobook acknowledges that healing is a personal journey. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
But it encourages us to explore different techniques and find what works for us.
Like what?
It could be reframing negative thoughts, practicing emotional regulation.
Like the 4-7-8 breathing.
Like the 4-7-8 breathing, or seeking guidance from a therapist.
It's so important to remember that we don't have to do this alone.
We don't.
There are resources out there.
There are.
To help us process these experiences and find healing.
Lots of resources.
Even if we're not dealing with past trauma, the audiobook makes a case for embracing our imperfections and mistakes.
Our flaws are part of what make us unique.
Yeah, and our mistakes are opportunities for learning and growth.
They are.
It's about shifting from shame and self-criticism to self-acceptance and compassion.
And that leads to the concept of a growth mindset.
Okay, growth mindset.
Have you heard of that?
I've heard the term.
But you're not sure you fully grasp it?
Not really.
Okay, so it's about believing in our ability to learn and grow.
Okay.
No matter where we're starting from.
So how does that relate to not reacting?
It's about seeing challenges as opportunities to grow.
Okay.
Rather than threats to our ego.
So instead of getting discouraged when we mess up, we view it as feedback.
Yes.
That helps us improve.
Exactly.
And it encourages us to focus on the journey, not just the destination.
It's about believing in our potential to become the best versions of ourselves.
How do we put that into practice?
How do we shift our thinking from, I'm not good enough, to, I can learn from this?
Right.
It starts with recognizing those limiting beliefs.
Okay.
You know, those negative thoughts that tell us.
Those inner voices.
Those inner voices that we're not good enough.
Yeah, they're loud.
They are.
Yeah.
So how do we quiet them down?
How do we rewrite the script?
The audiobook suggests challenging those beliefs.
Okay.
Ask yourself, is this really true?
Okay.
Or is this just a story I'm telling myself?
Based on past experiences?
Based on past experiences or societal conditioning.
So we're questioning those assumptions and looking for evidence that contradicts them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you can start replacing those thoughts with more positive affirmations.
Yeah.
You know, focus on possibilities.
Yeah.
Not limitations.
Okay.
And celebrate your progress.
No matter how small.
No matter how small.
All these concepts like mindfulness, self-compassion,
growth mindset. They all weave together to create that foundation for emotional balance.
It's not just about suppressing emotions. It's about developing a whole new way
of relating to them. It's about creating inner peace and stability.
It's like we're learning to become the eye of the hurricane.
I love that. That calm center in the middle of the chaos.
And that sense of control can be really empowering.
It is.
It allows us to respond to situations thoughtfully.
Yes.
Instead of reacting impulsively.
So we're not slaves to our emotions.
Yeah.
We're the masters of our own destiny.
That's the ultimate goal.
That's the goal.
Of this deep dive.
Yeah.
Right.
To help us become the most emotionally balanced versions of ourselves.
This conversation is helping me integrate these concepts into my own life.
It's a good reminder.
It's a reminder that this is a lifelong journey.
It is.
As we wrap up this second part, I'm feeling a sense of hope.
Me too.
And possibility.
I know.
Yeah, it's like we've been given this toolbox filled with tools and techniques that we can start using right away.
What's resonating with you the most so far?
Yeah, what's resonating with you?
I think the emphasis on self-awareness as the foundation for everything else.
You can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Exactly.
So the first step is to really pay attention.
Pay attention.
To our thoughts and feelings.
And behaviors.
And behaviors.
Yeah. What triggers us?
What triggers us?
How we react.
How we react. Yeah, and what kind of self-talk we're engaging in.
The more aware we are.
The more empowered we become.
Of our inner world.
Yes.
The more empowered we are to choose how we want to respond.
To the outer world.
It's like we're taking back the reins.
Yeah.
We're becoming the conscious creators.
It's not about reacting on autopilot anymore.
No.
It's about making deliberate choices
Deliberate choices.
that align with our values.
Goals.
And goals.
And that's true emotional freedom,
Yeah.
isn't it?
The freedom to live with more ease,
Yes.
more joy,
More joy.
more presence.
More presence.
Even amidst all the challenges.
Even amidst the challenges.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Let's take another pause
okay,
and come back for part 3,
sounds good.
where we'll continue to explore this power of not reacting.
I can't wait.
So we're back for the final part of our deep dive
Okay.
into the power of not reacting. And we were just talking about how self-awareness is that
Right.
crucial first step to gaining control over our emotional responses.
It is. And, mastering this power of not reacting,
Yeah.
it really is a journey.
Oh,
It's not like we just suddenly become
right.
Zen masters.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't just flip a switch
No, we can't just flip a switch.
and suddenly be unfazed by everything.
Nah.
Yeah, it's more about incremental progress.
Yes, small steps.
Building those emotional muscles.
Exactly.
And those small steps, they do add up.
They do.
The more we practice mindfulness,
Yes.
challenge those negative thoughts, those knee-jerk reactions,
Those knee-jerk reactions, they start to loosen their grip.
and that sense of choice,
Yes.
that agency,
That's where the power is.
that's where the power is.
Yeah, it's not about feeling like a victim
Yeah,
of our circumstances or emotions anymore.
we're taking back control.
You're taking control.
And that sense of empowerment.
It can really affect everything.
Yeah.
Our relationships, our work,
Our well-being.
our well-being, everything. It's about showing up as our most authentic selves.
But sometimes the
Yeah.
gap between knowing what to do
I know.
and actually doing it feels pretty wide.
It does.
What advice do we have for bridging that gap?
Well, the audiobook has some tips.
Okay.
One is to start small.
Okay.
Choose one technique
Okay.
that resonates with you.
Like the 4-7-8 breathing.
Like the breathing.
Gratitude,
That's right.
reframing negative thoughts.
Reframing and commit to doing it every day.
So consistency over intensity.
Yes, exactly.
Like it's better to meditate for 5 minutes each day
Right.
than to try to cram in an hour once a week.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about building those habits gradually
Yeah.
so they become sustainable.
And remember, progress isn't always linear.
Right.
There will be days when we fall back into old patterns.
Yeah, we're human.
That's okay.
The key is to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
View those setbacks as opportunities
To learn.
and keep moving forward.
Self-compassion is so important,
It is.
especially when we're trying to change those old habits.
What about when we feel stuck?
Yeah. What about when we feel stuck?
You know when those negative thought patterns feel really strong?
Yeah. They can be so persistent.
The audiobook talks about seeking support.
Okay.
There's no shame in reaching out for help.
Therapy, a coach,
Therapy, a coach, a support group,
even a friend.
even a trusted friend or family member.
It's like having a Sherpa
Yes,
guide you up the mountain.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Someone who's been there before.
What's been the most impactful takeaway for you
Hmm.
from this deep dive?
I think it's the idea that our emotions,
Okay.
even the negative ones, they're not the enemy.
Okay.
They're actually messengers.
Oh.
They're trying to tell us something.
So instead of trying to suppress or control our emotions,
Right.
we should be curious
Yes.
about them.
Be curious and compassionate
Yeah.
and listen to those messages.
Because they have wisdom
They do.
to offer.
And that's the foundation for real emotional freedom.
I think you just perfectly summed up
Did I?
this whole deep dive.
I'm full of wisdom today.
I want to leave our listener with a question to ponder. What if, instead of trying to control our emotions, we just allowed ourselves to feel them?
Fully.
Yeah, embrace the full spectrum of our human experience
Understand.
without judgment or resistance.
That's a good one.
It's like surrendering to the flow of life,
Yeah,
trusting that even the most challenging emotions have a purpose.
I like that.
Maybe by embracing that full spectrum,
Yeah,
we actually have more control
maybe we do.
than we think.
That's a great thought to
Yeah.
leave with.
Well, on that note, we'll bring this deep dive to a close.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us on this journey
It's been a pleasure.
into the power of not reacting.
I always love one.
Until next time, keep diving deep
Yes.
and keep embracing the full spectrum of your amazing self.
Great advice.